Hi there, how's it going? Gabriel here. So this video is titled, Women Are Closer to God. And at the very beginning here, then I want to make a few things clear because I'm sure some people have some resistance to that title. So this is not whatsoever about superiority or inferiority of masculine and feminine. Obviously, masculine and feminine are both absolutely essential, absolutely 100% equal, and beyond that are part of a whole, are in some sense inseparable, although there is obviously division of masculine and feminine, and separation and misunderstandings on both sides as a result of that separation and lack of unity. And so this video also is not about insects, even though they're making an appearance. This video also is not about division, even though it might come across that way at the outset. But hopefully I will be able to convey here that this is actually about coming to greater understanding and thus unity of both masculine and feminine, but in this video that I'm focusing in particular on the feminine element, essence, what the feminine offers, and the knowledge and wisdom of the feminine, which to a great extent is not being fully realized and utilized within our societies. So I'm going to discuss 5 different concepts here, which I would call integral elements of the feminine, and just sort of paint an overall picture here that ultimately the direction towards greater love and unity and towards God must mean going in the direction of the feminine. So the first concept is that of creation. And that is that because women are the ones who give birth, then they are more connected with that cycle of life and how it plays out, and to some extent certainly the pain involved. But women have an experience there that men simply have very little inkling of, other than as an observer. And this connects women and the feminine to the earth, to the process of creation, to the cycles of life, in a way that men will never truly understand. And obviously men have our connections to the cycles of life and the world and nature and all that in other ways. But giving birth is something that is uniquely feminine, obviously, and is something that impacts and affects the feminine consciousness in a way that should absolutely be recognized and honored as a powerful act of creation that it is. The second idea is that of feeling. And as I see it, then the feminine is associated more with feeling and emotion, and the masculine is associated more with thinking, the mind, rationalization. But love is not a thought. Love is a feeling. I've made another video talking about that the feminine is love and masculine is light, and both are absolutely necessary for life. And masculine is absolutely godly in its light, but the masculine rationalization and tendency to compartmentalize and seek to clarify with the mind and make sense of and understand is ultimately a divisive tendency of separation, of trying to understand with the mental capacity, versus the feminine feeling and emotion is one of greater just beingness, experience, being immersed in the flow. And this is ultimately the answer to life, is to simply surrender to the flow and be in the flow of life and be immersed in feeling, because without feeling there's no love, and without love there's really no point to life. Pretty much then you're just robots. And so the feminine needs to be recognized and honored for that quality that is offered through the feminine, and which is to a great extent not recognized, not fully realized whatsoever in terms of its potential to add to the flow of life, the experience of life within our modern day societies, which are so focused on progress and inventions and the future and moving forwards, and what technology is going to bring us in terms of convenience. And this is all very masculine dominant stuff. It has brought great progress to humanity in many ways, in many beneficial ways, but there is still an element of beingness, of being immersed in the flow, as can be experienced, for example, out here in nature, when you get away from the hard square buildings of the city and the pavement, and experience the greater softness of nature and the bugs flying around and the unpredictability, rather than the crosshatch of streets in straight lines and stoplights saying stop and go, and airplanes flying over and jackhammers and follow the rules and cross the street here and not over here, and all this. That is a masculine paradigm of order and control, rather than spontaneous being and just soaking up the flow of life. So the masculine dominant paradigm of our current civilizations have gotten disconnected from that flow of life, from the earth, from nature, and from the energy that manifests all that, of the goddess, the feminine energy, which wants to be free and spontaneous and simply explore its feelings of being, rather than containing and controlling and keeping everything in line and in order. So the third concept here is that of receptivity. The masculine impulse and direction of movement is one of forwards projection of energy, whereas the feminine is the drawing inwards of receiving energy. And this is absolutely essential as a element of receiving information. Obviously, we all have our masculine and feminine traits in many different ways, but in terms of the projection and receptivity of information, then talking would be the masculine, the projection of your perspective, and then listening is the feminine receptivity of somebody else's perspective. But in order to evolve and move along with new information, then you have to be able to receive it. If you are only projecting your perspective, your beliefs, your viewpoints, then you are not open to new information from others, from the universe, from the world around you. And I'm not saying that anybody, men or women, are in a state of pure receptivity or pure projection. We all are a mix of both. But when you are in a state of greater and perhaps overwhelming masculine projection and have a lack of receptivity, then you are not allowing information to enter your being that could benefit your being and that could help you to evolve and to see a wider perspective of reality. And I think that this is a pretty common thing with a lot of men, and not all, but that they are, feel more comfortable projecting their perspective and their beliefs and opinions than of being genuinely receptive to other points of view versus the feminine. And this is especially predominant in our mainstream religions. And this is kind of the ultimate point that I want to make here, that has a major impact on the planet as a whole, which is that our world is stuck in a masculine dominant paradigm in which the leaders of the world, both political and religious, but I especially want to focus on the religious because this is a spiritual video. The leaders of the world, in terms of spirituality, the leaders within Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, etc., are predominantly men. And to a great extent, then many of these men, in my estimation, are very disconnected from the feminine and from the receptive, and they are very much stuck in ancient visions of God. So these, following the 10 Commandments, I mean, that is like, 2,500 years old or whatever? I'm sure that was an advancement on morality at the time. But as I understand it, what do I know? But as I understand it, God is an evolving being. We are all a part of God. We are all expressions of God. We are all pieces of God making sense of things and ultimately on a journey of separation which will end back in union with the greater whole of the divine, of God. But meanwhile, that larger part of all that is, of the divine, which we call God, which is just part of us and we are part of it, but that which we call God is also in a state of evolution and learning and growing. That God is not static and just knows everything and is just sitting there and has nothing more to learn. God is learning through us. And so God has been evolving. Much has changed over the course of human history. And that which was an advancement in truth thousands of years ago is very ancient information now, which has been improved upon. And there are truths now that are accessible to us, but you have to be receptive to them. And so the religious leaders of the world now are basically stuck in a paradigm of thousands of years old, stuck in points of view about morality and who and what we should be and how we should live our lives that are basically totally absurd, ridiculous, irrelevant, and outright harmful. So I'm going to give one very potent example here, of this paradigm, this old belief system of current religious leaders, which may seem pretty ridiculous, but it is a very good example of what I'm talking about here. So sometime in the past couple of years, I forget exactly, then there was a news story of a Muslim imam, if that was his title. Anyways, he was a Muslim religious leader. And he was warning that women should not be buying cucumbers. And the reason being because cucumbers are a phallic vegetable, and that gazing at cucumbers would be reminding women of men and of sex. And so they should refrain from buying cucumbers because of the shape of that vegetable. And this is not a news story from The Onion, the comical news paper. This is real life, and this is just idiocy. This is insanity. There are so many judgments wrapped up in that one statement. So there are judgments, obviously, against sexuality, that sex is not of God, and so you shouldn't be thinking about sex. There's judgments against the body. Could say there's judgments against vegetables, but that's not the point. There's judgments against women's desire. So, behind this concept of women should watch out for being reminded of sex because it will bring up their sexual desire is all these judgments that God is opposed to sex, that sex is wrong and immoral, that you shouldn't think about it, that it's only for procreation, etc. And this is the paradigm that current spirituality, mainstream religion around the planet is stuck in, is all these judgments against their body and against the feminine sexual desire, which in my view is like the most sacred thing in the world. So our current spiritual paradigm on earth is one of men in control of things, holding down the free flow of energy, not able to receive the information that is streaming onto the planet now from around the galaxy, as I understand it, of divine energy that is seeking to cooperate with the planet at this time. That there truly is a evolutionary phase going on of humanity going through a major transformation at this time, and so God or some angels, other forces, if not God directly, whatever, divine forces are seeking to partner with Earth and help facilitate the growth of the planet and moving into a more sane way of being. And so these energies are streaming onto the planet all around and available to us, but they are not available to those who are not open to receive them. And so that is the very important, essential component, element of the feminine and of receptivity in our evolution and our learning process.